All right, my friends, welcome back to another episode of the Build Show podcast. In the studio with me today, I got a second generation builder who is in Dallas now and is actually building the Build Show Live House today. We're going to have a conversation with my buddy Peter, whose dad started his home building company, and he jumped in actually not right away. We're going to get into his story and hear some about this, but it's really interesting, Peter, because I think your story is similar to my story in a lot of ways, in that I've got a son who I'm expecting to kind of take over the business. And so I'm learning from you, and I suspect our viewers will be learning from you as well. And we're going to jump into a little bit of the Build Show Live House, but we've got a whole nother dedicated podcast about that. With that being said, we're going to jump into a second generation builder's history from the Reisinger Build Studios in Austin, Texas. Let's get going. All right, guys, before we jump in with Peter, I want to say a big thanks to Pella for sponsoring today's video. You know, Pella was the window that we used in last year's Build Show Live House. We used their lifestyle series. And this is a little embarrassing, but this was the first time I'd actually used a Pella product before, and I was extremely impressed. For my nerdy friends out there, here's a couple numbers that you will appreciate. My pre-trades blower door score, meaning I went and put a blower door in when the house was fully framed and all of my Pella windows and doors were in. But before the electricians, plumbers started, I ran a blower door test, and we were, I forget the exact number, we were either 0.45 or 0.50 ACH
That's
50.
Really good.
Isn't that good?
That's really good.
That's really tight. And these were Pella's Lifestyle Series, which was not billed as a passive house window and door. Like it was mostly double hung. No, that's not true. It was mostly double glazed, both push-out casements. We had a couple of crank casements. I had a triple slider in the house, and I had their front door as well. And so to see a number like that immediately said to me, wow, these are really well-built windows. I was very, very happy. We did use, I shouldn't say it was 100% Lifestyle. We did have two of their fiberglass series, which...
Yep.
I can't remember what those are called, but in our two bathrooms, we put fiberglass. But like I said, fabulous windows. If you're not familiar with Pella, go check them out. Of course, you can go check out that series called the Reisinger Build, and you can see how we installed their Steady Set series, which is also a really interesting innovation from Pella, where you don't have to be outside to install the window. You can actually install the windows from the inside, which is a really big deal from a safety perspective. But big thanks to Pella for sponsoring. Peter, let's jump in with you, brother. So,
awesome.
Gosh, there's so much to talk about, Peter. You're actually a second generation builder. Yep. Your company is what again?
Jim Scott and Sons Builders.
Okay, and you guys are actually thinking about rebranding soon, though, right?
Are. Don't tell anybody, Matt.
How long has your company been in business?
So there's actually been a few versions of rebranding already in our history. My dad started in the 70s with a partner.
Do you have any idea what year? Because I was born in the 70s.
The storefront office proclaims it was 1974.
Oh my gosh!
So
wow. I was 2
hope
years
we're telling
old.
the truth. And
so you're at the helm of a 50-year-old entity. That's incredible.
And the industry has changed so much. We've changed so much. We were talking about that earlier. But yeah, my dad was in a real estate family, well-known real estate family in Dallas, and he's a true entrepreneur at heart. And someone was like, hey, would you want to do some condo builds? And he was like, for sure, absolutely.
Did he know anything about condo builds?
A thing. But it's so my dad. And honestly, he built the first condos in Dallas.
Is that right?
Yeah. And so it's just kind of
early 70s.
Yeah, really jumping off a cliff there. And that may not be the truth, but that's what he said. And so he did that. The company then became Jarrett and Scott. He joined partnership with his best friend, and they built for 15, 20 years.
Okay.
And then the savings and loan crisis. I was a kid, but I have heard horrible stories really hit them, as it did most builders, most real estate. Yeah.
My business partner, Tim, was around for that, and he tells me stories of house interest rates, mortgage interest rates of 17%, 18%.
Like we think we're suffering right now.
We think we're suffering at 6.5 or 7.
Guys, go buy houses. It's going to be fine. You know?
Yeah.
So they both kind of crept into early retirement at that time. And we were based in Dallas. My dad always wanted some land, and so we built or went and left. And when I was in, I think, elementary school, and moved to East Texas, bought some acreage. I think he thought that he could make a living with cows and chickens and some
That's
goats.
funny. If you're not from Texas, by the way, East Texas is very different from West and Central.
Yes.
A lot of pine trees, just a totally different topography.
Really hilly. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Gets lots of rain.
It's real pretty.
Yeah.
In fact, a lot of our lumber that we use in Texas
Exactly.
is grown in East Texas from the pines there.
So, I mean, that was a dream of a childhood for me and my brothers. And, but with his, kind of farmer style life, he did still have some clients that would call him from past relationships in Dallas and say, hey, could you build a lake house? Could you remodel our kitchen? Those kind of things. And so little by little, he just got pulled back into full-time out of retirement.
Right? Wow.
And that's where he dubbed his vision was he wanted to leave a legacy. And so it is now Jim Scott and Sons.
Okay.
And so he built under that name until he died. And
I didn't realize your dad had passed away.
So he passed away in 2018.
Oh, wow.
And so my part of the story, I actually, growing up, I think I told myself to any of the generational builders out there, I would love to hear kind of their side of the story. But
we've got quite a few of them on the network even.
I've seen that.
Jake
seen
Bruden's
that. It's
a
beautiful.
second-generation builder, and Stephanie Daly. And I've always said, and probably you guys have heard this before, but I've always said people like you, Peter, that have grown up in the business and had a mom or a dad that did this for a living are at least 10 years smarter than people their age. Because you have this childhood history. My dad was in the steel business. And so anything I was learning about construction was on this old house for 30 minutes on Saturday, and that was it.
Yep.
Whereas you just being around the business growing up, I suspect you learned a ton.
Learned a ton from a ton of what to do and what not to do. Owning your own business is a challenge in and of itself.
That's for sure.
So yeah, I kind of told myself growing up that I would never do this. And
that's interesting. And was that partly because of the hardships your dad went through? I mean, the 80s was a rough time for a lot of people.
It devastated companies, devastated families. It was really, really difficult. And then before I jumped into in a management role, I also got to watch what the construction industry went through in 2008. And so that was its own absolutely tragic time. And so I was actually in vocational ministry world around 2013. I was working at a church here in Austin.
Okay, cool.
And my dad gave me a call and said, hey, would you be interested in coming back to Dallas and in a management role running Jim Scott and Sons? And my first reaction was, no, I know what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm good. Thank you very much.
I'm working for the Lord.
Yeah, I'm working for the Lord. And I just really put some thought and prayer into it. And within 2 days, I really had this incredible experience where I felt like I was supposed to go back to Dallas. And so 2013, moved back to Dallas, and the company really had...
What was the rest of your life? Were you married at this point in life?
I was not.
Okay,
no,
so you were still single.
Still single. Met my wife soon after I moved back.
In Dallas.
Gotcha. At our church. And so the company was still relatively small. He was really doing a lot of remodel addition work. It wasn't really sustainable to add an employee or a few employees, but he needed to. And so I worked side jobs. And
what were your side jobs? What were you doing at the time?
So honestly, really influential in the way we run our business now, we can get into that later, is the restaurant industry.
Interesting.
So mostly high-end dining.
Okay.
But learned probably more from that experience that I did in college on business and customer service. And
there's a lot from that industry and service that we could learn as builders.
I've learned, I have a whole, we'll get into that later, but, so we grew, and mostly we are really strong believers in the architect's leadership in our projects. And so, with that, we're really strategic in connecting with really talented architect firms in Dallas. And Yeah.
And that's your source of leads mostly,
For the most part, yeah. And if we are the entry point, that's our first stop.
Yeah, is going to one of those.
Exactly.
And how many relationships do you have? Like, I may not be quantifiable, but do you have like a half dozen that you work with over and over, or is it more like 30?
No, we actually, our onboarding process and pre-construction is pretty specific. And so it really needs to have a true value kind of alignment with who's in design.
Yep.
And because if the client's coming to us and we're going to place them in a trusting relationship with an architect, it really matters how that process plays out.
Yeah.
And so we're pretty systematic about it. We really like firms that have a real clean system in it as well, so that the client's experience
Is really good.
really continually really experiencing the same type of communication, detail, all of that. And so,
gotcha.
So to answer your question, we're probably less than 5.
Wow.
I probably should have more. But
and do you guys do any design build at this point?
If we have a client that wants that, we essentially subcontract it, and bring it in-house, but we don't have anyone on staff for that.
Got it. Gotcha. And speaking of staff, tell me kind of your general, like, are you doing a couple of projects at a time? How many folks do you have on the construction side versus office side? How big are you guys generally?
So we're still pretty boutique. We are running, I have 9 live right now.
9 projects active.
Exactly. That are like in vertical, and then just 2 or 3 in pre-construction right now. Summer's pretty slow for us in pre-construction. And we run a build philosophy where essentially most of our projects are going to have a project manager and superintendent, and those roles are kind of interchangeable, especially in the commercial field. So I'll just make it clear. Our PM is a highly administrative role. So if we see our superintendent, who's really the construction science mind, always on site, and I kind of see that role as the surgeon. And then our PMs are making sure that they have all the utensils, all the tools, the lights, materials, scheduling, procurement, client interaction, designer interaction, architect. So highly coordinating. We are about half of our staff is female.
Interesting. Wow. Unusual in our industry. That's
it is.
cool.
It's something we're really passionate about. I feel like I can walk into a house and feel, just by observation and even the layout of the rooms and things like that, of whether there's been leadership, a female leader in that build.
Fascinating. Give me an example. Can you give me an example? Something dumb that's happened that you've seen.
In the spec world, especially, like I think oftentimes there's efficiency is the goal, and
low cost is a driver.
Low cost, and so there's really no one really thinking about, like, okay, so the mother of the house is going to be at this sink, and she's like, how is this really speaking to her? And an educated buyer can walk right into that house and be like, why would you do this?
That was a bad idea.
Yeah.
That was a bad decision.
And it's because there wasn't that just so much of the heart of the home, and I'm stereotyping a little bit, but we really feel like our projects, both from the client experience, subcontractor experience, and the design side, really benefits from having both male and female involved.
Yeah, that's interesting. I would say that my years, over the years, we've had maybe 10 to 15% of our project managers as females. And going back 25 years ago, when I was a college recruiter, I worked for a big national builder, and of the probably, 300 superintendents we had in the 90s, only a half dozen were females. And guess who was in the top 10% of the best? It was those 5 or 6 females.
And for you,
super organized, super good with people. They didn't need to lug 2x4s. They needed to be really good at all the relational skills and communication skills and organizational skills, which may not be there for the handsome guy who was the quarterback of the football team that the boss wanted to hire because he was also in the football team, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that stereotype of that kind of perpetuates this male dominated industry sometimes.
And we're actually finding that our subcontractors really love the strength and the organizational skills and the communication and that our female leadership is bringing. And I'm really proud about that.
That's cool,
but
man.
For you, your project manager role is really project manager superintendent. So
yeah, I have kind of a different setup. We have what we call project managers that really kind of own the project.
Right.
They are the quote
builder.
unquote builder. And we only have outside architects and outside designers we're working with. Recently, though, I've hired a full-time architect to be on my staff. And Chelsea is interfacing a lot with those architects and designers and clients and helping manage that. So I'm already seeing huge benefits from having her on staff.
Absolutely.
With both a really organized person, but also someone with a really great design perspective.
Yes.
To be able to get the design intent and understand, okay, here's where you're going with that. And, we've got this budget challenge. What about this as an alternative? It's those kinds of things that I don't have. Tim and I don't have that ability. And so having her on staff has been phenomenal. But then we have a couple of assistant superintendents or assistant project manager, I should say, that act more like your superintendents in some ways, where they tend to be the person who's locking up and opening up. They're there on site more often. They're, coordinating trades a little bit more, that kind of thing. So it's interesting to hear how different builders are set up. And how big's your office staff, out of curiosity?
So we are pretty lean. I've been twice as big and far less profitable.
Interesting.
And honestly, it was clunkier. I just have one controller who actually, Alyssa, acts as our controller, but she's also a project coordinator for us. So she does a lot of, we're really focusing on just internal systems. And so she's highly talented at that. I'm kind of the personality I've got a great idea, a little bit like my dad, I'm gonna jump off a cliff and she'll create a system for me.
That's awesome.
So it's repeatable.
That's great.
So we're small.
Do you mind me asking what software you guys are utilizing?
We're using Builder Trend.
You are? Okay, cool.
And Builder Trend integrated with QuickBooks. And we're actually in talks with Adaptive as well.
Yeah.
So I haven't onboarded Adaptive yet.
We love Adaptive, man. It's been incredible for our business.
That's all I needed to know. They called me today.
Yeah, we love them. We're like the early adopter for them, and they've been amazing to work with. So if you're considering them, I can tell you from personal experience, we love them.
All right, Adaptive, amazing. I'm coming for you.
They've probably allowed us to reduce staff by 1 because of the software.
That's incredible.
It's been incredible.
Yeah. And that's really my hope for Alyssa's role as well, is a lot of that data entry that is really time consuming. It seems like Adaptive really takes, they're not paying for this, but, but we do have a relationship with them. In full disclosure though, we have done some videos and they've paid us for stuff. However, we don't work with people we don't like. But it really takes care of a lot of that heavy lifting.
Yeah.
And it really lets you just kind of reconcile your books and
that's awesome.
Stick to taking care of your clients.
Unfortunately, we've moved away from Builder Trend. We had a bunch of difficulties with output and with connecting with QuickBooks. And so we're using like job site codes these days for some of the features that we would do with Builder Trend rather.
We're also using job site codes, but I didn't realize they were that sophisticated. That's amazing.
They're really, really good. I want to circle back to what you mentioned though about your time in the service industry, where you spent some time working 2 jobs, and one of them was doing high-end restaurant service. What lessons have you applied from that to your business? That's kind of an interesting thread I want to pull on.
So the interesting thing is a lot of our clientele are in the Park Cities, which is an affluent neighborhood in Dallas. And the restaurant that I was at was private. It's kind of like the Chili's in the area for.
I suspect the food's better than Chili's, though.
Most certainly. And the standard of service was quite a bit higher.
Sorry for our Chili's fans out there.
Yeah,
I don't like
Chili's
their food
sponsorships here either. But I just learned about dealing with difficult situations. I learned about delivering really, really high service. And this table here, you need to, within about 30 seconds, you're going to learn how to best serve them.
Wow,
and
that's
then
fascinating.
you might have a different setup for the table that's right next to them. They might want to talk to you and hear about your day and learn more about you. This table over here is on a date or in a business meeting. And so you kind of want to be in the background. And honestly, our projects need to cater a little bit to the cadence of these families and what their lifestyle is like.
Yeah.
And so the other thing I use with my team a lot is I've kind of painted a picture about how we want our client experience to be based on this fine dining experience. And so if I split up the roles, and this is not gonna, it's gonna break down, but if I split up the roles, I really am trying to keep our clients walk in, just imagine they're in this kind of dimly lit room. It's beautiful, the ambiance, but they feel like they're the only ones there. Let's say the hostess is the interior designers. So they're creating atmosphere. They're making setting the table. The wait staff might be the architectural experience. They're providing what this experience is. And I think us as the builder, as unpopular as this may sound, we're back of staff. We're kitchen.
We're kitchen. We're doing all the heavy lifting.
We're doing all the heavy lifting. And I think
someone's giving them a menu, but we got to produce it.
Exactly. And I think where projects go wrong is when the client feels like they have to get out of the booth and
go back to the kitchen.
Sometimes builders with good intention invite the client back into the kitchen.
Right.
And when the client hears, hey, this vendor is out of salmon, we have to get it from over here, the kitchen staff could totally handle that, but it really causes stress to the client.
That's fascinating. I think that's really true.
So for us, we're really trying to keep the client in that really enjoyable spot, and everybody's playing a role to do that, but maintaining enough trust where they believe that they don't have to go back to the kitchen to figure this thing out.
That's fascinating. I like the analogy. I'm curious, does this break down or not? One of the things that Tim and I, my business partner, have talked a lot about is really setting good expectations for things and then meeting those expectations. How does that kind of concept relate to the high-end service world, or does it?
Well, I think a huge part of what we do, what we're supposed to be doing, is educating the client along the journey in a proportionate amount of information. Ideally, in pre-construction, we have every bit of information that we need to know, but the reality is it's a creative process.
Yeah, for sure.
And even if you do have 95% of the information, these projects tend to take a personality of their own when they're in construction, and you want to pay attention to that. And so I hope I'm answering your question. I think for us, it's just getting ahead with trustworthy information, and if that information changes, updating the client, and it's just constantly not bombarding them with oh, you have to make all these decisions now, but keeping a constant stream where it's enjoyable, but staying ahead of the bad news, staying ahead of the things that aren't predicted.
That's right.
And communicating those things well.
Are you guys doing mostly fixed price or cost plus?
All cost plus.
Yeah, us too. And there's that extra dance in cost plus, if you ask me, right? Because we do need to disclose to them that the salmon from this vendor is more expensive.
Correct.
But how do we do that?
Yeah.
And we've kind of come up with this model of bad news first.
Yes.
Where real early on we want to set the expectation that we're going to tell you the bad news and not sugarcoat things. And that translates from pre-construction. And in the pre-construction phase, we're really teaching them how this process is going to work, so that when we get into construction or even post-construction, now we're coming back 3 years later to do service. This is what things cost, and here's how we're going to bill you. And it's interesting. I really like this high-end service industry thought. You're buying $1,000 meal, you have expectations.
Yeah.
It's way different than going to Chili's for $80 for two people.
And it's really interesting. I think part of, especially in the cost plus, where you're delivering, the bad news first, they're getting the benefit of not paying for fluff that are higher margin that a fixed cost might afford. Yep. But I think really communicating to the client well when you've been able to save them money.
Yeah.
because that creates trust. And then I think that also pays dividends when you have to be like, well, the lumber market went up, or whatever the condition is.
That's right.
So that you're communicating well, good news and bad news.
Yeah, that's right. For sure.
So.
What's the mix on your company, and you watch this transition between custom builds and spec builds, like our Build Show Live House that you're building for us, by the way?
Very
How was
well
that?
done.
Pretty good transition.
We're not spec builders; we're custom builders.
Yeah.
My father-in-law and I will build. He serves as an investor, and we'll build one spec a year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fun for us because we get to have a lot of creativity with it. There's also clientele, I think, because our business model is it's all about people.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some families that aren't built for the creative process of custom home building.
That's right.
And so being able to provide a custom product that they can just sign a piece of paper
Jump
for.
right in. Yeah.
I think is really kind to people. And so we'll do that. And it's typically, we found a good lot value and jumped into it.
And so our Build Show Live House that you are building this year, and you hopefully will come tour with us.
Please come see it.
Which will be October 16th is the VIP day. If you come to Build Show Live, the only way you can get on the tour and get to meet Peter, well, you might meet him at the show, but the only way you can see the house that Peter's building is to get the VIP ticket, because that will be on October 16th, which is a Thursday in Dallas, Texas. And so let's transition to talking about that briefly, but we're actually going to podcast on a part 2 of this, where we're really going to jump into the details of the house. But Peter, before we jump into that second podcast, I'm curious from your thoughts. You were at the inaugural Build Show Live. You had the VIP pass. It's kind of fun for me that you were there, and now you're building our Build Show Live house.
I know,
it was our relationship, because I've actually known you for not quite a decade now, but pretty close.
Yeah.
I was looking back in my records. I think I met you in Dallas, maybe 2015, 16, 17.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it might have been 2015 at Buildertrend training.
Is that right? Buildertrend training? So you were at Build Show Live last year, the inaugural. What were your thoughts? Like, what did you think about it? For someone who's never been before, or is like, gosh, should I spend $1,500 in the VIP? Or, I can only afford to come to Friday, Saturday, which is pretty cheap. I want to say the education's a couple $100, and in the expo only pass is only like $150. So it's pretty inexpensive. What's your thoughts on this?
This is gonna be fun, because I went to Build Show Live. Obviously, it was my first time as well. I also went to IBS for the first time this year.
Right?
So kind of back to back. And I want to be honoring, but they're very different. They're offering something very different.
Yes.
And so I think for the IBS is really pointing a really broad canvas of it's product heavy.
Oh, for sure.
There's a lot of vendors.
Yeah.
And there's great exposure with that. As a builder, someone who's like, I am invested in building a generational company with my family that affects a lot of people, I need to constantly be learning.
Yep.
And so the content that I experienced last year here in Austin was inspirational, mind-blowing.
That's awesome.
Literally, I've got before you and I even talked about the Build Show Live House, making plans with, and I'd encourage builders to do this. Like if you're trying to date an architect, buy them tickets.
Yeah.
To come.
That's right.
And it's great. It's a great tool just to build relationships, build business.
Yeah.
But just the content. Yes, there's going to be a Build Show floor. You're going to be, all the vendors are going to be there. Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. But the classes, to me, were game changing.
I love to hear that.
And to be honest, just a very, there was some classes at IBS that I was like, I could probably teach this.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be in a class that I can teach.
Yeah.
But the wisdom that you've got around you is incredible. So that's what I really enjoyed.
That's awesome, man. I love to hear that. I think if I could piggyback on that, I would say the networking and the classes are the two reasons to come. All the vendors are the icing on the cake. And by the way, there's I can't remember, 150 vendors that have signed up, a ton of vendors you will have seen on the Build Show over the years, a bunch of people you've met or I should say you'll meet for the first time, but you've seen on my videos, like the full BFS crew. that you've seen like Justin Pratt before, or you've seen Terry, the Ready Frame VP. You've seen them on videos of me. They're at the show, and you can talk to them about your project. And then all the good companies with all the good products, the Pellas, the Hubers, all those guys, they're all going to be there. So this is the event to be at. If you're like-minded to Peter and I, you want to build a better house, you're an independent builder, this is the place to be. October 16, 17, and 18. Go to buildshowlive.com for tickets and sign up soon, because there's a limited amount of those VIP passes to come see the house that Peter's building. We're only selling 300 of those. We got some new stuff on the horizon for this year that we didn't do last year. We've got an incredible party on Friday night. It's
going to be awesome.
That's going to be after the show floor ends. And we've got a really cool VIP experience, including some roundtables to really get to know people at the VIP. So with that being said, stay tuned for part 2. Peter and I are going to come back and talk about the nerdy details on the house that he's building for the show that y'all can walk. You know how I end these shows, right? I do my podcast very similarly to my videos, and I think we should co-host this. Follow us on Facebook or Instagram. Otherwise, we'll see you next time on the Build Show podcast.